Officially call the February 10th meeting of the Ponca City Board of Education to order. Would you please rise and join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You hear Brett?
Yeah, I love it.
Pray with me. Father, we thank you for all the blessings you bestow on us each day. Your blessings are sometimes obscure, so we must stop and think about what good things have taken place, and not dwell on the bad things that seem to take front stage in many cases. And we say thank you, thank you, thank you. Please keep those less fortunate warm and with food to eat during the winter months, especially the children. Be with this Board of Education, district leaders, teachers, staff, and support personnel as we all work together to make a bright future for those we serve, our students. And we also ask you to keep safe and protect our men and women of the armed forces. We cannot thank them enough. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Brett. Be seated, please. Jan, would you call the roll?
Dr. Kincaid.
Here.
Mr. Newsom.
Here.
Mr. Riley.
Here.
Mrs. Trout.
Present.
Mrs. Zimmershed.
Here.
Okay. We do have a quorum. Next on the agenda is the presentation of the Employee of the Month and the Friend of Education. Our first award tonight will go to the Certified Employee of the Month, Nancy Van Sant, speech pathologist at Woodlands Elementary.
She was a client for years.
Woodlands Elementary School is thrilled that Nancy Van Sant is the Ponca City Public Schools Certified Employee of the Month for February 2020. Mrs. Van Sant serves students at Woodlands and other sites as a speech pathologist. We often use the mantra, "What's best for students?" That is precisely how Mrs. Van Sant approaches her responsibilities. She cares for all of her students, gets to know them well, and is relentless about helping them meet their annual goals. Nancy spends countless hours creating engaging lessons, working with students, and getting IEPs and other documents prepared. You can count on Nancy to go above and beyond her official job description in order to get the job done. Teachers appreciate how hard she works to find therapy times that do not conflict with core instruction or fun activities. That's a tough task. She has a positive attitude and will make sure you are smiling by the time your ways part. Parents and teachers frequently seek her out for wisdom regarding students and their needs. Without question, she is an expert in her field, and our school is very fortunate that she is on our team. Thank you, Mrs. Van Sant, for making a difference in the lives of students and staff. Congratulations on receiving this award.
Congratulations, Nancy. Well deserved.
Good job. Our next person is Tammy Robertson, who's the Support Employee of the Month. Tammy's unable to be here tonight, so we're going to postpone her award and present it to her at next month's March meeting. So with that, we'll go on to the third one, the Friend of Education. That's the First Baptist Church, who is the Liberty Elementary Pie Partner, and I've mentioned multiple times, we would really have a hard time surviving without our pie partners.
Get up here, guys. All right, First Baptist Church is one of our partners in education at Liberty Elementary. This year they provided all school supplies for each and every one of our students. They provide dinner for staff on parent-teacher conference evenings. They even bless us with snacks for our SIM meetings each month. French McLemore comes every Tuesday to facilitate games and activities with students during recess. Several of the members at FBC also volunteer in our classrooms listening to students read, practicing sight words, or guiding learning centers, and even volunteer to help with our school-wide quarterly celebrations. At Christmas, they provided us with a wonderful holiday luncheon. But the most impactful thing they've done for staff is each of us have been adopted by a member of their church. We each know who our support person is, and they pray for us, send us notes of encouragement, and even small gifts. Beyond the monetary things they have done to support our students and staff, First Baptist Church has went out of their way to love on us and show their appreciation for our staff and students. And we are very, very grateful to your congregation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Before you're seated, if the two recipients will go outside, you'll get your picture taken. We'd like to have a picture and a record of the event. Next on our agenda is probably one of the most fun things we get to enjoy sitting up here watching the shows going on. It is the Trout Elementary Challenge, and Wendy Landis is going to explain to you how come we have such a full house in here tonight.
Hi, I'm Wendy Landis. I'm the Gifted and Talented Challenge kind of administrator at Trout, and I'm also the PE teacher, coach, whatever else we throw under that hat. And we do a lot of different things in Challenge. We do STEM projects, but more importantly, I think that enriching them is the most important thing, so we do a lot of activities that involve reading and math. But this research project is something I started 3 years ago, and we researched 9/11. It was way before their time, and so a lot of kids don't know about it. And they actually have eaten it up. They ask a lot of questions. They wanted future studies about it. And so they've been doing this for about 2.5 months. They've been pouring their hearts into different topics about 9/11 that they want to share with you. And so if I can have all of the kiddos from Trout come up here, they've put together a timeline of events for you. And then after it's over, some of them have drawn pictures to give to you guys.
Awesome.
You're going to face them, okay? So you're going to have to speak up so that they can hear you. So, Bren and Lily. There's so many of you. They're going to face the board. Just back up a little bit. You don't have to be in their faces.
You guys are going to do awesome. We're so excited to hear from you.
On September 11, 2001, an Islamic terrorist group named Al-Qaeda ravaged our nation in a series of deliberate, coordinated attacks. On the morning of 9/11, 19 terrorists would hijack 4 California-bound commercial airplanes. Shortly after their departures from airports in Boston, Massachusetts, Newark, New Jersey, and the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Before 9/11, airports were not required to videotape security checkpoints at that time. Knives were allowed on planes if the blade was less than 4 inches in length.
Our challenge group has been researching and putting together a timeline of events of that fateful day. We hope America never forgets the lives lost and how our world would be forever changed.
At 5:45 a.m., the first hijackers entered the airport. Kahil Sheikh Mohammed is a Pakistani Islamic militant held by the United States at Guantanamo Bay detention camp under terrorism-related charges. He was named as the principal architect of 9/11 Commission report. 1996. Mohammed is indicted on 7 counts of terror conspiracy in the Southern District of New York for his alleged involvement in a failed plot to blow up as many as a dozen American commercial airliners over the Pacific. Mohammed says he was responsible for 9/11 and confesses to the killing of journalist Daniel Pearl. He also claims he was involved in the 1993 World Trade Center attack and a 2002 Bali nightclub bombing, as well as Richard Reed's 2001 shoe bombing attempt. The United States announces it will seek the death penalty against Mohammed for charges related to the 9/11 attacks.
At 7:59 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 takes off from Boston.
On September 11, 2001, at 8:21 a.m., American Airlines Operations Specialist Nydia Gonzalez calls the American Airlines Emergency Center to pass along information she is receiving from a flight attendant aboard Flight 11 that the pilot and others have been stabbed. It is the first plane to be confirmed hijacked in the 9/11 terrorist attack. Flight 11 was overseas to Los Angeles, filled with more than 20,000 gallons of fuel. With 81 passengers aboard, the plane was half full. John Argonowski was the captain. No one knew that hours before, 96 miles away at an airport in Portland, Maine Mohammed Atta had cleared security just minutes before boarding a flight overseas to Boston, with plans to connect to Flight 11. When they had arrived in Boston, Atta and Omari cleared another security checkpoint at Logan Airport, then boarded Flight 11 along with 3 terrorists. "Don't do anything foolish, you won't be hurt," the newspaper reported that the hijackers said, quoting air controllers, "We have more planes, we have other planes." At 8:15 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 takes off from Boston for Los Angeles. Flight 175 left the gate at 7:58 and its wheels were in the air by 8:15. It struck at 9:03 at the South Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The plane was hijacked by 5 hijackers. Flight 175 was the second plane to attack the World Trade Center tower. There were 56 passengers, and at one point they stabbed flight attendants. At 8:20 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77, en route to Los Angeles, takes off from Washington Dulles International Airport.
American Airlines Flight 77 flight scheduled to go to Dulles International Airport near Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles International Airport on September 11, 2001. That was hijacked by terrorists and deliberately crashed into the Pentagon as part of the September 11th attacks. The American Airlines Boeing 757-200 took off 10 minutes behind schedule at 8:20 on September 11, 2001. A crew of 6 and a scant of 56 passengers. About half an hour after takeoff, the hijackers took over the aircraft. At 8:54, the westbound plane turned to the south, a deviation from its flight plan. 2 minutes later, the airplane's transponder was turned off. Radar contact was also lost. An air traffic controller at the Indianapolis Air Traffic Control Center tried repeatedly to make contact with the pilot, receiving no response. He contacted American Airlines, which was similarly unsuccessful. Unaware of the earlier hijackings, air traffic controllers began notifying other agencies that the plane might have crashed. At 9:09 a.m., the Indianapolis Air Traffic Control Center notified the FAA Regional Center that it had lost contact with Flight 77. The plane crashes into the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m.
The Pentagon is the Virginia headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense, located in a massive 5-side concrete and steel building that is a potent symbol of America's military strength. With more than 6 million square feet of floor space, the Pentagon ranks among the largest office buildings in the world. During the terrorist attack on September 11, 2001, 60 years to the day after construction began on the Pentagon, a hijacked plane struck the building, killing 189 people and damaging roughly 1/3 of the building.
The Pentagon is divided into 5 wedges, and the renovation project was going wedge by wedge when the terrorists flew American Airlines Flight 77 into the Pentagon, September 11, 2001. Killing 189 people. The plane hit in Wedge 3. Their renovations had just completed, but only about 800 out of the 4,500 people who normally would have been working there had moved back into their offices. And the new sprinkler system, extra structural support, and blast-resistant windows helped to keep the building damage to a minimum, likely saving additional lives.
At 8:42 a.m., shuttled to leave Newark International Airport within minutes of the other hijacked flights. United Airlines Flight 93 takes off after a delay due to routine traffic.
In 2001, United Airlines Flight 93 left Newark, New Jersey at 8:42 a.m., headed for San Francisco, California. There were 38 passengers and a crew of 7 aboard. Flight 93 was hijacked by 4 Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda on board as part of a 9/11 attacks. Flight 93 was the 4th hijacked plane. Flight 93 crashed down in a field in Somerset, Pennsylvania, killing passengers, crew members, and terrorists on board. The pilot of Flight 93's name is Leroy Homer. People aboard never reached their intended destination because they chose to fight back against the terrorists.
There were 4 terrorists who boarded Flight 93. United Airlines Flight 93 crashed into an open field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, killing all passengers, crew members, and terrorists on board. The 4 aircraft strikes killed nearly 3,000 people, the deadliest attack on American soil by a foreign entity. White House was Flight 93's target. A high-ranking Al-Qaeda detainee told investigators the intended target of United Airlines Flight 93, which crashed into Pennsylvania Field on September 11th, was the White House.
At 8:46 a.m., North Tower attack. 5 hijackers crashed American Airlines Flight 11 into floors 93 through 99 of the First World Trade Center, North Tower, and 76 passengers and 11 crew members on board and hundreds inside the building are killed instantly. The crash severes all 3 emergency stairwells and traps hundreds of people above the 91st floor. At 9:03 a.m., the South Tower attacks. 5 hijackers crashed United Airlines Flight 175 into floors 77 through 85 of 2 World Trade Center, South Tower, killing the 51 passengers and 9 crew members on board. The aircraft and an unknown number of people inside the building. The impact renders 2 of the 3 emergency stairwells impassable of severes majority of the elevator cables in this area, trapping many above the impact zone and inside elevator cars. Shortly after hijacked Flight 175 strikes the South Tower and some workers in the building jump or fall to their deaths. A phenomenon already witnessed after the attack of the North Tower. Estimates of the number of people who die as a result of falling from the Twin Towers range from 50 to more than 200.
Osama bin Laden is charged with the events of 9/11.
In 1996, Sudan expelled bin Laden from the country. He moved with his wives and children to Afghanistan, where he was offered somewhere to stay from the fundamentalist Taliban. The U.S. charged bin Laden for training people involved in the 1993 attack that killed 18 U.S. servicemen in Somalia. In 1997, in bin Laden's first interview with the Western media, he told Peter Bergen that the United States is unjust, criminal, and tyrannical. November 1998, bin Laden was indicted by the U.S. on 224 counts of murder for the embassy bombing in Kenya and Tanzania. June 7, 1999, he appears for the first time on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. On October 12, 2000, bin Laden was linked to an attack and bombing of the USS Cole in Yemen that killed 17 sailors and injured 39. In September 2001, following the 9/11 attacks in the United States, the U.S. government names bin Laden as a prime suspect. On May 2, 2011, in the early morning hours, a small group of U.S. forces, including Navy SEALs, raided a walled and fortified compound in Abbottabad,
Pakistan. In the ensuing firefight, bin Laden and 3 other men died. A woman also died. Bin Laden reportedly died of a gunshot wound to the head. DNA samples are taken before his body is buried at sea.
Several health concerns arose as a result of 9/11.
Some people may believe that the people who were injured and were able to survive after medical help would be perfectly fine. But many people developed illnesses such as rhinosinusitis disease, GERD reflex disease, asthma, sleep apnea, cancer, post-traumatic stress disorder, respiratory disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, depression, and anxiety disorder. 2,977 people died along with the 19 hijackers. During the rescue, 403 first responders died, including 343 firefighters, 1 chaplain and 2 paramedics, 37 New York police officers, and 23 New Jersey police officers. Along with deaths, 289 bodies intact and 19,858 body parts found. 1,402 employees died in Tower 1 and 614 people died in Tower 2.
A memorial and museum. The 9/11 Commission was created. The final report published on July 22, 2004, the 9/11 Commission stated that terrorist attacks on September 2001 was a shock, but they should not have come as a surprise as Islamic extremists such as Al-Qaeda's Osama bin Laden declared to kill many Americans. On November 27, 2002, U.S. President fundraised money to start the 9/11 Commission findings. On March 2003, they sought millions of dollars to start it. Then on March 31st to April 1st, 2003, the 9/11 Commission held their very first public hearing in the United States Custom House. Survivors of the 9/11 attacks and relatives of victims wanted to know what was happened and was worried. Over the next 10 months, they had 12 public hearings. The attacks of September 11, 2001 killed about 3,000 people. Shock went all over the world and tragedy, losses, and love. By September 21st, anyone who had survived and was dug out had been recovered. The prayers and wishes was probably the best that anyone could do in that time. Family and friends had losses, but some were lucky.
The world was forever changed.
2001. Osama bin Laden authorized 9/11 attack. On October 7th, U.S. jets bombed Tabalian forces. 2002. In March, the U.S. military launched Operation Anaconda against Tabalian forces. 2003. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization took control of the peacekeeping mission. 2004. October 29th, bin Laden threatens another terrorist attack. On May 23rd, Bush and Karzai signed an agreement allowing the U.S. military access to Afghan military facilities in return for training and equipment. After 9/11, budgets for defense-related agencies skyrocketed. Homeland Security directionary jumped from about $16 million in 2002 to more than $43 billion in 2011. Meanwhile, the budgets on the Coast Guard, Transportation Security Administration, and Bomber Patrol have all more than doubled since 2001. In the wake of the terrorist attacks, airport security underwent a series of major overhauls, and a service that was once largely provided private companies now primarily overseeing the massive Transportation Security Administration. Created in the wake of 9/11 attacks, the TSA is tasked with an institution, new security procedures, and managing screenings at every commercial airport checkpoint in the country.
A memorial and museum were constructed.
The 9/11 Memorial was designed by Davis Bertie Bond. Davis Bertie Bond designed the memorial because he wanted to honor those who were killed. 2,983 people died from 9/11 attacks. 3,000 people risked their lives to save others. The memorial is located where the Twin Towers would be. The names of the people that died are on the outer rim. It took them 8 years to build it. The memorial is located 8 acres of the 16. If you go to the museum, it'll take you 2 hours to see all of it. The 9/11 Memorial opened 10 years after the 9/11 attacks. The memorial is 14 years old. There are 400 swamp white oak trees around the 9/11 Memorial. It has 10,000 artifacts, including racket cars. They designed it to look like it was the racket Twin Towers. They had to spend $700 million to build the museum. They have to spend $52 million a year to keep the museum open. And security is $10 million. They started collecting stuff for the museum from 1993 to 2001. They have programs for kids and adults. This exhibit contains materials and artifacts from 9/11 before, during, and after the attacks. Personal testimony and belongings were used to create.
September 11th is now known as Patriot Day in the United States and is observed as the National Day of Service and Remembrance of the victims of 9/11 attacks. Across the country, numerous events are held on this day to honor the loss of thousands of lives. There are also 3 somber and beautiful memory sites dedicated to remembering the victims of 9/11.
Ultimately, we wanted something positive to come from the loss of so many innocent people in such a terrible way, says David Pine. Here in the United States, we didn't want the terrorists to forever define how 9/11 would be remembered for generations to come. Instead, we wanted our children to learn about how the nation responded to the immediate aftermath of the attacks. The remarkable spirit of the unity and compassion that was briefly shared by so many.
And that is their project, guys. Those are their words. They did all that research themselves, and so they were learning those big words, but I think they did a great job. So if you guys want to give your pictures, and then if we can all give them a great round of applause. They were really nervous.
That was very good. That was very entertaining, and obviously they've done their research. They've done their homework.
Well-versed students, too.
Good job.
Good job. Thank you, parents, for bringing them out. We appreciate it. Good job, Trout Wildcats.
A good job.
That was.
Yeah, they
Got
did
my
a lot of work.
education back.
That's right. Hey, thanks for coming.
I got stuck in Houston on 9/11.
That was
I got the
good.
last
Good
rent
job.
car available to drive home.
Don't
from
fill his
Houston
head.
to the airport.
Everybody, all of us probably remember that day. I remember what I was
I watched
wearing,
it on
where I
a computer down
was.
there,
Yes.
sitting in the office in Houston.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
Good job.
That was good.
That was good.
Like I said, that's the most fun part of what we do up here.
No, really.
Watching these shows.
Great job.
They did.
Now, you're welcome to stay for the board meeting.
That,
You
Yeah.
might need popcorn and candy. We'll
like
try
I
to
said,
roll
that
out
was
the
the most
machine.
fun part of the evening.
That's a good job.
Was. Very
Yeah.
good.
They did.
Wish the PA was louder.
Oh, sorry.
I just wondered if they could hear.
No,
Probably not.
we couldn't either. Okay, next on the agenda, we have no public comment. So therefore, we'll go to item 4. Building assessment review. Carla's going to tell us about Trout School. Maybe that'll work. I mean, that Sounds good to me.
Big shoes to follow.
I tell you what, good job. They've been having it, and you don't want to say great time doing that, but certainly learning lots of things. Okay, I'm hoping this is it. I apologize. I went back through last year's. I'm so sorry. I did that to you. I gave you way too many numbers last year. So this year I've tried to streamline it a little bit. When we talk about Trout, I want to talk to you about the growth of our students. We'll start out with our test results from last spring, something we're not very proud of, but those are our numbers from last year, and I can look everyone in the face and say they will be better this year. Our fifth grade, we found out some things. You know, when you post some bad numbers, then you have to stop and say, what can we do differently? We departmentalized last year, and we saw that that was not working at Trout. It works other places, but it didn't work for us. So we made some changes mid-year, and I think we ended up paying for it throughout the year. So I'm sorry about that. Our fourth grade, I apologize, these are our reading scores. Our fourth grade came out strong. I went ahead and put the 2018 numbers there underneath. So we had a 52% passage rate, which was up from the year before. Our third graders had a passage rate of 49%, which was up from 35% the year before. When we get those results back, we immediately started planning for this year on what can we do differently. We are sticking to Marzano's high yield strategies. Those are in direct combination with our TLE. So we take those very seriously. Our teachers are using that whole list. So we're very proud of the strategies we have in place. Now I'd like to let you know this is the 2019-2020 Star Reading Growth Report. So our kindergartners started out with a baseline of 63%, showing on grade level skills at the beginning. We're up to 71. We were as high as 82 there in November. That was pre-Christmas, we've decided. Our first grade group, I want you to know, kindergarten and first grade take the early literacy STAR test. So you will see there in November, we moved all of our kids over to the STAR test. So you will see a drop. It went down to 38%, and we've been building back ever since. So that was one of the things that the entire district went to at Christmas time, which is certainly making all of our data a little bit more comparable. In second grade, we have terrific second grade teachers, and they've built from 46% on up to as high as 73%, again before Christmas. And so we've had a little dip here in February, and we were surprised by that because other data that we have shows that we're even stronger than that. Our third and fourth grade, I went ahead, these are scaled scores. So this is not showing you who's on grade level. This is saying, you'll see that number out beside third grade. These are the students that are hitting that scaled score that Renaissance Place has told us this is what your child or your student needs to hit to show proficiency in April. So we are comparing them to where they need to be in April, and we are excited to say 43% of our third graders are there at this time. Our fourth graders are at 48% with, I believe there were 8 hovering right there on that 570. So that will be pushed up quite a bit, hopefully in March. And then our fifth grade, those needing a 662, we have 41% that are at that point. You can see tonight our involved parents. It's great to see. It's great to see how many parents we had with both mom and dad here tonight. So the picture over on the left, we wanted to bring you a little piece of Trout. That is our curriculum night. So just a kind of a snapshot of that. And then the Vanna Whites over on the right-hand side, yes, we will stand on street corners to advertise our parent-teacher conference times. So we had fun doing that one. One of Marzano's strategies is reinforcing effort and providing feedback. If you come to one of our morning assemblies, sometimes they're 5 minutes and sometimes they might be 20 minutes. We get a little long-winded on bragging about our kids. Over on the left-hand side, Mrs. Pratt shows in her classroom who have mastered List A, List B, and List C. So I wanted to show you that is one way we showcase them in the classroom. Mrs. Stein also gives out blue ribbon awards for those students showing progression through ST Math. We'll talk a little bit about ST Math in a little while. We like to bring the reality into the classroom, and when we tell kids that they're going to need these skills later on, we want them to actually see this. So we had our famous baseball players, before they even played a game, they came out for an interview day. The second graders interviewed them, and they've written wonderful reports up. So those are showcased in the front hallway this week. Setting objectives and providing feedback. We believe in the power of AR. We practice reading skills all day long, and we want kids to go home and practice those skills on the weekends, in the evenings, and also in the classroom. So this was a game day that we were celebrating the second quarter, 9 weeks. I said game day. I guess I should say game afternoon. One of the things that we love to participate in, and this has grown from leaps and bounds. We're up to 186 families participated in the One Book, One District. This was the book we read this year. It's a boy called Bat. Everybody, I'm sure, wants to have a pet skunk. And this little boy not only wanted to have a pet skunk, but he had to overcome some things. So we read the book from the perspective of the little boy who is autistic. And I have to say, it was the best conversations we'd had of any book discussion going on. Parents commented, "Thank you for giving my child a different perspective." So that was a very successful program. Terry brought that to us years ago, and we are enjoying it every year. Those are our science scores that are posted. Science was something that we worked on in 5th grade every single day, and we were very disappointed by that. We've had good conversations in Principals PLC. We were training kids to do experiments and to write up their data, and we believe that they are tested on interpreting other people's data. So we have done some work here in the district. Our instructional coaches came together and built PowerPoints. You may already have information about that, but we are visiting PowerPoint presentations every single day at Trout in all the different grades. Our writing scores, we are still lost, I will be honest. I'm not a whiner, but I will whine about writing. When the majority of the class receives the same score all the way across the board, it makes you wonder a little bit. So we are still progressing through writing. We write every single day in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We want to bring you a few pictures of what goes on at Trout. Our Mad Science program is always fun. You can see Lauren there on the left-hand side already has her science coat on. So she's already decided she's going to become a scientist. And these are some of our 3rd graders that just rocked it when they were doing several of the science experiments. Not only do we do science kits, we do Mad Science, and then several of our teachers believe in the Genius Hour, and so they've been using that in their classrooms as well. Going over to math scores, we are better at math at Trout. That has always been one of our strengths. Our 5th grade, again, was a disappointment last year. We've made several changes since then. So stay tuned. We've got better things to tell you about next year. Our 4th grade, we had a 70% passage rate, which was a great jump from 2018. We're very proud of that. So we do our backflips over those kind of numbers, and that's what we want to bring you next year. 3rd grade, 51% with passage. That was a little bit lower, but you can see it's that same group then that moved on up to 4th grade that had such success. People ask us, what do you do in math that makes it stronger? Our math curriculum includes a lot of things. We do My Math, ST Math, which is the program that Phillips brings to us. We were very committed to it, and in fact, we were all enrolled in it before they decided to go ahead and renew the subscription. So we are very dedicated to ST Math. Our kids love it. Accelerated Math program is a program that our kids can work on individually, and so that gives them a chance to grow at different rates, and that has been very successful. We have Study Island, and Freckle Math that comes along. That is a new program by Renaissance. The STAR Math growth, I've listed that for you again. We're excited at the numbers we're posting. I like those February numbers. There's our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. We lagged a little bit there in 4th grade, but I tell you what, with such strong numbers from last year, we feel like we've got that up and coming. We do a lot of time, we spend a lot of training, we spend a lot of our classroom time using Kagan Cooperative Learning. This was Mrs. Pratt's classroom. They were playing Four Corners, and as you can see, they were engaged in their learning. So we had 2 more groups besides these 2. Lead Like Me was a program that our 5th graders participated in. We brought that in from the Oklahoma Association of Elementary School Principals, and we had that training here, and our 5th graders were so excited. We had sent a group last year, and they were excited to come back this year. They do a lot of math. They do a lot of cooperative learning as well. In wrapping up, I just want to say that we are about growing kids. We're about using the Wildcat way to help us grow those strong Wildcats, and we're excited for the Wildcats that we're sitting on to West Middle School and getting to see several of our kids participating in sports and sports, music, all the extracurricular activities. We feel like that's very important. So we've taken one of those traits each month, worked it into some programs, and then we celebrate our kids each month with that. Any questions? I finally caught on. You were trying to tell me hurry up there, Shelley. I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Well, I meant to tell you before I'd give you a high sign.
No,
as
that's
you got
fine.
closer.
That is fine. Does anybody have any questions?
Perfect timing.
Thank you.
Nope.
Well, you were able to see the cream of the crop tonight. We're very excited about what our kids are doing at Trout. And thank you for making that possible. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Carla.
Thanks.
Great job.
Thank you.
Oh, I think I'm up.
Next on the agenda, Shelley's going to give us the legislative updates.
And I'm going to be brief, just give you some highlights of the legislative update. Talk to you a little bit about that. Okay, as you know, the second regular session of the 57th legislature went into session on Monday, February 3rd, and we're going to talk about some of the hot topics. I'm sure you're up on Governor Stitt's State of the State address, and here's just a couple of highlights, well, several highlights. Big numbers there. We're in the $3 billion, but basically there is over an $11 million increase to the State Department of Education, which would annualize the 2020 teacher pay raise. So it's not additional money, it's just to compensate for the pay raise from last year. And at the same time, Governor Stitt hopes to increase the tax credits offered for private school scholarships to $25 million versus the $11 million to annualize our 2020 teacher pay raise. He proposes to increase the ad valorem reimbursements to school districts from 99.6 to 112, so just a little over $12 million, and he would like to reform the state funding formula and unlock more local dollars for schools, ad valorem dollars within the district. He holds flat the budget for the State Department of Career and Technology Education, and deposits $100 million into the Revenue Stabilization Fund to set aside funds to increase the reserves and protect education tribal dispute. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. And after all state appropriations, that leaves more than $163 million unspent. So here's some hot topics. Combating the teacher shortage, and you guys hear us talk about that, me and our community. There are over 3,000 emergency certifications in the state, and I have told in curriculum committee that the State Department, at this point, after 2 years, if our emergency certified teachers have not passed the competencies, then we cannot renew them. We have worked hard with our emergency certified teachers. We're up to 39 today. They've given a lot. Our staff's given a lot. Our administrators, their partner teachers. And if we are to not renew them, we are going to have to replace with emergency certified teachers. Then we start over. So our emergency certified teachers are really, really excellent. They know their content. They're behind, I always say this, they're behind the 8 ball a little bit in classroom management procedures. So we work a lot on that because they haven't had the teacher education programs. Also, their virtual charter school reform is a hot topic. As you know, more and more brick and mortar public school students are enrolling in virtual charter public schools, which leads to virtual public charters getting the biggest bulk of state aid in the state aid adjustments. And brick and mortar public schools maintain that virtual charters do not have the same expenses that brick and mortar do. They do not have child nutrition program, they don't have transportation, they don't have activities. So with the virtual charters, citizens across the state are calling for improvement in all schools, but there is a high dropout rate in the virtual charter schools. Oftentimes, and Betty's tracking that this year for us, Kathy and Betty are, we get those students back. So they will leave and then they come back. Typically, they leave before October 1 and the virtual charter gets a state aid and then we get them back. A big topic is Senate Bill 441. It's the school calendar rules. This is a carryover bill from last session. Basically, those schools that are in proponents of the 4-day school week think there's unfair criteria, that only very few schools will meet the criteria to go the 4-day week. So that's going to be a hot topic this session. Tribal gaming compacts. As you know, we are in a dispute with the tribal gaming compacts, and combined with the horse track fees, this contributed to $155 million of education dollars last fiscal year. This money goes into the Education Reform Revolving Fund. You may have heard of it as the 1017 Fund, which funds RSA, early childhood education. It offsets some of our flexible benefit allowances. Now, if the 1017 fund comes up short, there is no mechanism for the state to fill that deficit. So that's a problem for public ed. However, the state legislature can declare an emergency and tap into the rainy day fund, but we want to avoid that happening. The 2020 census is a hot topic, and it affects communities and schools with federal dollars, funds things such as special ed, Head Start, after-school programs, lunches, free and reduced lunches, maternal and child health programs. So those will be the hot topics for the legislature as far as education goes. There are a lot of hot topics. There are 321 new bills in regard to education and 327 carryover bills. And carryover bills were presented last session and they won't voted down. They were still in the process. So they are bringing those carryover bills back. And I'm just giving you a few of the new bills. House Bill 2931 talks about school lunches and not providing school lunches for students who are in deficit and not publicly shaming, and requires all information about school lunches be directed at the legal guardian of the student, which I am for this, and my principals know that. I know that we have to do some of that for USDA, but we do not deny children meals in Ponca City Public Schools. House Bill 2980 has to do with counseling services, and we've talked about this a lot in curriculum and at board meetings. More and more of our kids are facing complex trauma, not one single event. They live in trauma, and our counselors do a lot of things. One of those, they're building test coordinators, and there's a big push about having our counselors just doing counseling duties, and they would strive for a ratio of one counselor to no more than 250 students. We don't have it in our district. And sadly, we couldn't get a counselor. We struggle to replace a counselor. So we can't meet that mandate. So that's why the teacher shortage needs to be addressed. This is a good one. House Bill 4121 would allow students to attend a charter school or a private school to participate in their local public school activities. Now, this bill came up in 2017. There was a Senate bill. It was denied, partially because the concern that it created over mandates for receiving school districts, as well as questions verifying the student's eligibility. It costs money to run activities, and we don't get any of the state aid. So, out there again. Here's a couple of education Senate bills from Ron Sharp. He really is talking about these emergency and provisional certifications that maybe local boards could decide if we rehire these two-year emergency teachers that haven't met the criteria, which is a good thing. That gives us hope. We have, I think I mentioned this to you, 39 emergency certified teachers in our district, and we have 18 that might not meet those requirements. Typically, we hire 65 new teachers a year, between 50 and 65 new teachers a year. 18 more on top of that, that would be tough for any Oklahoma school. Then Senate Bill 1617 has to do with paying special education teachers 7.5% above if they meet criteria. Right now, our special ed teachers are paid 5% above. So those are just some examples. Here's some important legislative dates to know. You know that the legislature convened on February 3rd. On the 27th is the last day for a bill to be heard in the committee in its House of Origin. March 12th is the last day for a bill to be heard in the House of, that should probably be heard in House of Origin. And then April 23rd is the last day for the bill to be heard in opposite House. Then May 29th is the last day of session, so it's going to be super busy. We have a lot of advocacy opportunities. Our teachers are going to go to the Capitol. We're going to send 4 teachers again to the Capitol. Last year, we went every 2 weeks. This year, we're going to go every 3rd week. Those dates are February 24th, March 24th, April 14th, and May 5th. So they'll be gone 4 days, all Tuesdays. For our teacher advocates. The COSA legislative briefings begin this Wednesday, and we will go probably live twice a month, and then they offer a Zoom briefing once a month. So we're going to know the latest updates on legislation. And the days that we go to COSA, we will then go to the Capitol and visit with our legislators. The OSSBA Superintendents and Board Members Day at the Capitol is March 10th, 2020, and we'll talk about that. That's a time that OSSBA sponsors. And then I communicate personally with Senator Coleman and Representative Luttrell. I got an email from Representative Coleman last night about what they did in committee last week. Neither one of our local senator or representatives are on Senate or House education committees, but they are both advocates for public ed. Another open line of communication I have is with Representative Ty Burns. I talk to him regularly. He calls me if he has questions. He is a PCPS former teacher, so he actually represents Stillwater, Pawnee, Morrison area. Anybody have any questions about upcoming hot topics and legislation?
Nope.
All right.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes the agenda, minutes from last meeting, and the contracts under $10,000. We did not have any contracts over $10,000. We had very few under $10,000. Brett had mentioned we had to put some doors in for the maintenance shop. We opened a couple of minor POs for future possible electronics work that had to be done. We had to have a contract with a behavior interventionist. We had to have a contract written in case we needed a Spanish interpreter for one of the tests that was given. We had a couple of fundraisers to choir, Lincoln, Union, football wanted a golf tournament. Unless anybody wants to vote on any of those things separate, I would accept a motion to do item 3, or I'm sorry, not item 3. Item 6, consent agenda. Have a motion from Don, a second from?
Nancy.
Nancy. Comments or question? Call for the vote.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Motion carries. Number 7, consider and take action on the following district financial reports. It's all the standard reports that we talked about in the Finance Committee. It also includes a couple of Booster Club fundraiser requests, the activity request, Treasurer's report, and as Curtis always likes, the ratification and approval of the payroll. So do I have a motion to approve item 7?
I move 7 point.
Motion from Don and a second from
David.
David. Comments or questions? Call for the vote.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid? Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Okay. Number 2, board to consider and take action on a resolution to terminate the maturities of and setting a date, time, and place for the sale of $6.685 million in general obligation building bonds for the school districts. We have asked that the meeting be set for March 9th, 5:30 p.m. That is prior to the March regular board meeting. Anybody have a problem with that? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion from Judy and a second from
Second.
Dawn. Comments, questions, call for the vote.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item, consider and take action.
It is 5 o'clock, right?
5:30.
5:30.
It's just prior to the school board meeting.
Okay.
Consider and take action on the Ponca City School District calendar for 2021 school year. Curtis, you want to give us a quick shot on what y'all decided, what your recommendation is?
Option 4 is kind of half near the options that, what kind of highlights of it, it starts a little bit later than we started this year. Get the students out before Memorial Day, it gets kind of a lot of things we do before school. The fall break is Thursday, Monday again. That was
Friday, Monday?
Friday, Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Friday, Monday. And other than that, it's pretty typical. It kind of all fit in where we need to.
An important fact about that is the last day of school is on a Friday. That really helps us out with graduation. Not bringing kids back after the last day or having them come back after graduation.
And at the fall break, there was a little bit of discussion, but probably one of the biggest things that on Thursday night, regardless of whether we're in or out of school, we've got several kids and employees that are competing in athletics and events. So I think most folks like having that Friday. They're coming to school on Thursday instead of a 4-day weekend. Teachers like the 4-day weeks on each side, because you get a lot more done than you do in a 3-day. A lot of positives for it, and there's things like anything else, some people prefer Thursday, Friday, but Friday night was overwhelming.
Any board members have any comments or questions about the calendar? If not, I'd accept a motion to approve the calendar as proposed by Curtis and the committee. I think, Nancy, you were on the committee, weren't you?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and motion.
She was, and we reviewed with Judy and curriculum, so.
It was good.
So everybody's okay with it? Okay, so I'd look for a motion to approve item 3, the calendar as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Did you?
You go ahead and motion, and I'll
I'll
second.
make a motion.
Judy made the motion and Nancy made the second. Call for the vote.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 4, consider and take action declaring March 2nd, 2020 as Read Across America Day. I think this is a nationwide observance day. The school board wants to promote this as a Read Across America Day. Any questions, comment? I have a motion from Don, second from Judy. Comments or questions? Call for the vote.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Number 5, consider and take action on the school bus idling policy. I've waited all week to hear how Brett's going to explain this one to us. We're getting 3 new natural gas buses, aren't we? Or grants? Propane. And in order to get those, we have to meet some requirements for idling. And so Brett's going to tell us what we have to do to make sure we get our 50% discount on the other buses.
So I'll make a long story short, VW cheated on their emissions for the diesel vehicles. They got caught and had to give up a bunch of money. Naturally, the money went to the Department of Environmental Quality to manage and give out grants to schools to replace their buses, their diesel buses. And replace with some alternatives fuel, whether it's electric, whether it's propane, whether it's natural gas. So we got involved in there and doing these grants to get the buses, such as Robin said. But because it's an environmental quality deal, they also want you to have an idling policy that says you will not idle your buses any more than necessary to emit any more emissions than necessary into the atmosphere.
Oh,
So we must have an idling policy in order to try to mitigate that.
So you've written some idling policy for us.
Well, yes, I've taken one that was out there, I've modified it to fit us, and it's pretty simple and gives us a little bit of latitude, but it meets their criteria. Just a qualification to get the money for the bus.
Can you spell overreach? Wow. Okay, now that we know about our idling policy, do I have a motion to approve the idling policy as Brett's going to propose?
I'll motion it.
Have a motion from Nancy, second from,
Lindsay for president.
Tonight.
yeah, I mean, we're voting
It's in your
to
packet.
approve, we're voting to approve his policy that he has written.
I second.
A second from David. Call for the vote?
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 6, motion to and vote to convene an executive session for the following purposes: to discuss the possible termination, reassignments, resignation, and employment of personnel on the attached detailed personnel report, to discuss the purchase or appraisal of real property, conversation with the board's attorney concerning pending claims and litigation. And it's my understanding we need an executive session, so I'd look for a motion to approve one.
I'll move.
Move from Don. Motion from Don, a second from Judy. Call for the vote?
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop? Dr. Kincaid? Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
We're now in executive session.
Did you shut up?
Okay.
They were here. They were here.
She is here working on a Girl Scout merit badge.
I kind of figured that's what it was. I saw her,
And hung in.
I saw her writing notes. That's good.
You signed that.
Okay,
Are they
sure.
working on a scout badge?
She's working on her Scout BSA.
Oh, we're so glad to have you.
She just had to come because, sister.
You didn't have to wait on us to come out of this back there. We're back into open session, recital by the board president that minutes of executive session were kept by the board minutes clerk and will remain confidential. Number 9, consider and take action on recommendations for terminations, reassignments, resignations, and employment of personnel that we discussed in the room. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Have a motion from Don and a second from David. Call for the vote?
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
And Mr. Riley?
Aye. Do we have any new business, Shelley?
No new business.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Call for the
David
vote?
and Don.
Here, come up here a minute.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Gotta get a picture of
Mrs.
that.
Zimmershed?
Gotta get a picture of that Dad see
Are you ready, Mom?
Come on up,
Get
Dad.
up here and get a
good-
picture. Come over here behind
What you're
us.
going to do, you're going to
Come
hit
behind
that,
us.
and
Get
you're
over
going to
here.
say, "We are adjourned." Are you ready?
Wait, Dad's gotta get ready.
Are you ready, Dad?
I'm ready.
We are adjourned.
There you go.
All right.
Good job.